What if I told you that the very drive that makes you successful, reliable, and conscientious is also the source of your deepest dissatisfaction, your loneliness, and your chronic feeling of never being quite good enough? This isn't just a paradox for millions of us, it's the quiet tragedy of our lives. We are caught in a battle between two titans who live inside us all. One is a genius of creation, a visionary who builds empires but dies feeling isolated and misunderstood. The other is a gentle revolutionary, equally meticulous, who builds a legacy of connection and leaves the world feeling a little more like home. Today, we explore which titan is winning the war for your soul and how you can choose the victor. Welcome, story seekers, to our deep dive into a book that might just be the permission slip you've been waiting for your entire life. The book is How to Be Enough, Self-Acceptance for Self-Critics and Perfectionists, and our guide is the insightful and compassionate clinical psychologist, Dr. Hendriksen. So, what is the core problem this book was written to solve? It's a ghost that haunts the most capable among us. It's the feeling that no matter how much you achieve, how many boxes you check, or how perfect things look from the outside, there's an internal voice whispering, "It's not enough. You're not enough." Dr. Hendriksen argues that we have misunderstood perfectionism. We think it's about striving to be perfect, but it's not. It's about the constant, knowing fear that we are fundamentally insufficient. To bring this to life, she begins with a tale of two titans of childhood entertainment, Walt Disney and Fred Rogers. Both were masters of their craft, obsessed with detail, and driven by impossibly high standards. But their paths diverged dramatically. Walt Disney, the creator of The Happiest Place on Earth, was a man tormented by his own perfectionism. The creation of Snow White was an excruciating process. He drove his artists through round-the-clock shifts, blew his budget sixfold, and even after a triumphant premiere that had Hollywood legends weeping and cheering, Walt could only see the flaws. He told a reporter, "I wish I could yank it back and do it all over again." This perpetual dissatisfaction solidified into a life of isolation. A journalist noted Walt appeared to be under the lash of some private demon. He grew lonely, withdrew from friends, and despite creating a brand centered on happiness, he felt profoundly disconnected. He was the archetype of rigid, unhealthy perfectionism, a path that leads to burnout and quiet despair. Then there was Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers was just as exacting. Every script for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood went through multiple layers of intense review. He once halted production, leaving a highly paid union crew waiting, to walk to a university and consult with a child psychologist about a single script detail. Excellence was his only standard. But here's the crucial difference. Fred Rogers merged his high standards with flexibility, creativity, and above all, human connection. His mentor taught him the principle of guided drift, staying true to your principles while embracing the flow of life. When the fish in the set's aquarium weren't hungry during a taping, he didn't wait for hours for them to eat as scripted. He simply looked at the camera and said, "I guess the fish aren't hungry right now. You know, sometimes we're not hungry." He trusted his young viewers. He chose connection over control. While Disney was his movies, Rogers' intensity was in service of something greater than his show. It was in service of making a child feel seen, of breaking color barriers by sharing a waiting pool with Officer Clemens, of whispering to a boy in a train station, "Do you know you're strong on the inside, too?" This is the central question of the book. Both Disney and Rogers were perfectionists, but one was rigid while the other was flexible. One had something to prove, the other had something to share. One craved approval and was isolated. The other craved intimacy and created a life of connection. Hendriksen's grand promise is that this is not a fixed trait. We can choose which path to take. This book is the map. It's not about destroying the high-achieving, conscientious part of you. It's about harnessing that incredible engine and steering it away from the lonely path of Disney and toward the connected, meaningful life of Fred Rogers. It's about learning, finally, how to be enough. To begin this journey, we must first understand the true nature of our struggle. The book proposes 7 shifts, 7 fundamental realignments of our perspective that can transform our relationship with ourselves. We don't have time to explore all 7, but we will dive deep into 4 of the most powerful shifts that form the very heart of this transformation. Our first shift is perhaps the most fundamental, moving from self-criticism to kindness. We are our own toughest critics. We wield an internal cattle prod, convinced it's the only thing driving us forward. But why? Why are we so hard on ourselves? Dr. Hendriksen, drawing on the work of psychologist Raymond Bergner, reveals that our self-criticism isn't just a bad habit, it's a strategy. It's a tool we believe we need. We think it facilitates self-improvement, that if we punish ourselves for a mistake, we won't make it again. We think it keeps our ego in check, confusing modesty with self-flagellation. We criticize ourselves first to beat others to the punch, a paradoxical attempt to be beyond reproach. We might even do it to gain reassurance, secretly hoping someone will rush in and say, "No, you're amazing." Our inner critic, in its own twisted way, is trying to keep us safe, accepted, and connected. But Dr. Hendriksen argues that our self-criticism is like the chain-smoking marathon runner Uncle Chen, who runs impressive times while puffing away. He might think the cigarettes help, but he succeeds despite them, not because of them. Our achievements have come despite our inner critic, not because of it. It's stealing the credit for our inherent conscientiousness and grit. So what's the alternative? It's not about replacing negative self-talk with empty positive affirmations. The book offers a far more powerful strategy, shifting from evaluation to information. This idea is brought to life through the incredible story of John Wooden, the legendary UCLA basketball coach. In 1965, on the first day of practice with arguably the greatest freshman squad ever assembled, including a young Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Coach Wooden didn't give a rousing speech. He didn't talk about winning. He said, "Today, we are going to learn how to put on our sneakers and socks correctly." The all-star players were baffled. But Wooden explained, "Wrinkles in your socks cause blisters. Blisters force you to the sideline, and players on the sideline lose games." He taught them to tug their socks on to make them snug. Researchers later studied Wooden's coaching style and made a remarkable discovery. He almost never used praise or criticism. A stunning 75% of his comments were pure, neutral instruction. Pass from the chest, don't walk. One of his players, Swen Nader, later said, "It was the information that promoted change. Had the majority of Coach Wooden's corrective strategies been positive, that's good job, or negative, that's no, that's not the way, I would have been left with an evaluation, not a solution." This is the key. When we mess up, our inner critic provides an evaluation. I suck, I'm an idiot. It's personal, it's global, and it feels permanent. But the Coach Wooden approach offers task-focused information. Pass the ball to someone short. It's external, specific, and fixable. It takes the shame out of the equation. Think of Adam, the coder from the book, who gets so enraged at his own stupidity when he can't solve a problem that he has to go on frustration walks through department stores. His evaluation is, something is wrong with me. The informational approach would be, try making a flowchart. Break the problem into smaller steps. Take a break. This isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about giving yourself a better hook to hang your hat on. It's a shift that is both more effective and hurts a lot less. And it's the first step toward a kinder, more compassionate relationship with yourself, which is what the book explores through the deeply moving story of Eunice, a woman caught in a cycle of binge eating and self-loathing, who learns that self-compassion isn't about letting herself off the hook, but about understanding that her struggles make sense. By simply acknowledging the validity of her feelings, she begins to heal. This shift from criticism to kindness isn't about becoming soft. It's about becoming effective. It's about trading the cattle prod for a coat's clipboard. Our second great shift takes aim at the very foundation of unhealthy perfectionism, the belief that I am what I do. Dr. Hendriksen calls this shift coming home to your life, and it's about moving from a life defined by performance to a life defined by connection and enjoyment. At the heart of this struggle is a concept called overevaluation, where our self-worth is dangerously contingent on our achievements. Our value as a person rises and falls with every success or failure. To illustrate this, there is no more powerful story than that of Yo-Yo Ma. The world-renowned cellist recalls a time when his entire focus was on technical precision, on achieving a flawless performance. He remembers one night on stage, in the middle of a concert where everything was going perfectly, he had a terrifying realization: I was bored out of my mind. He asked himself, is that what I'm trying to do? Am I trying to get it right? Or am I trying to find something? In that moment, he made what he calls a fateful decision to devote his life to human expression instead of human perfection. Today, whether he's playing in a packed Carnegie Hall or for essential workers in a community college gymnasium, after getting his COVID vaccine, music for him is about connection. Many of us, like the younger Yo-Yo Ma, have put all our eggs in the performance basket. We overvalue what we do and undervalue who we are. We chase the promotion, the perfect grade, the flawless dinner party, the PR on our deadlift, believing that these achievements will finally make us feel worthy. Hendriksen points out this is a trap. It leads to a life like Gus, the cookware designer from the book. Gus is uber competent at work, but he feels like an incompetent failure when trying to hang out with his friends, because he can't figure out how to be good at just being silly. He asked his therapist, with genuine puzzlement, if I'm not focused on performance, what else is there? The book offers two beautiful, life-altering answers: connection and enjoyment. Shifting to connection means recognizing that our drive to perform is often a misguided search for communion. We think being impressive will make people accept us, but admiration is not the same as belonging. Admiration singles us out, connection weaves us in. For Gus, this meant small but profound changes, asking his team for input on projects before they were perfectly polished, focusing on listening to his friends instead of rehearsing what impressive thing to say next. The shocking result: it was easier. Life became less draining. The other basket is enjoyment. This is where we meet the surprising wisdom of Warren Buffett. Yes, that Warren Buffett. The billionaire investor is a passionate, if not particularly skilled, ukulele player. Has played duets with Bon Jovi and Bill Gates, strumming and singing with pure, unadulterated joy. He is clearly not trying to be good. He is simply having a ball. This is the radical idea Dr. Hendriksen presents. You don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. You can be a mediocre baker who loves the smell of cake in the oven. You can sing off key with your whole chest. You can dance like no one is watching, even if they are. The point of these activities isn't mastery, it's pleasure. And there's another secret benefit: struggle is more relatable than flawlessness. Letting someone see you fall on the bunny slope or taste your lopsided cake signals trust and invites them to trust you in return. It's a powerful path to connection. This shift isn't about abandoning our goals. It's about diversifying our portfolio of self-worth. It's about remembering that there are other ways to measure a life beyond a report card. It's about moving some of our eggs from the precarious basket of performance into the sturdy, nourishing baskets of connection and enjoyment. It is, as the chapter title suggests, about coming home to your life. Our third monumental shift is moving from a life governed by rigid rules to a life guided by flexible values. Hendriksen introduces this with a classic brain teaser, the 9-dot problem. You must connect all 9 dots, using only 4 straight lines without lifting your pen. Most people struggle endlessly with this puzzle. Why? Because we add an invisible, unnecessary rule: you can't draw outside the box formed by the dots. The solution requires you to break this self-imposed boundary. This puzzle is a perfect metaphor for our lives. We are all living by an inner rulebook, a set of shoulds, musts, and have-tos that we've collected throughout our lives. I must always be productive. I should never ask for help. There is a right way to load the dishwasher. Following these rules gives us a sense of certainty and control. It helps us feel like we're doing things right. Hendriksen points out, these rules often become tyrannical. They are frequently unfeasible, ignoring the messy reality of being human. They disregard context, judging our past selves for not knowing what we know now. And they are often contradictory, creating impossible double binds. I should be a team player, but I must also be fiercely independent. This is the struggle of Francesca, the stay-at-home parent from the book who dreads and loves hosting parties in equal measure. For her son's birthday, her rulebook dictates that everything must be perfect. The decorations from Etsy must match the cake. The goodie bags must be customized to each child's personality. Following these rules buys her social safety. In her mind, if everything is perfect, no one can criticize her, but the cost is immense. She spends hours online instead of with her children, leaving her exhausted and anxious. Her rules, designed to make her feel good, are actually making her life smaller and more stressful. So how do we break free? We don't have to burn the rulebook and descend into chaos. The answer is to shift from rigid rules to flexible values. Values, unlike rules, are not obligations. They are freely chosen directions. They are what is deeply meaningful to you, things like connection, creativity, justice, or learning. The process of rewriting the rulebook involves several steps. First, you must notice and name your rules. Follow the trail of shoulds, or the feelings of resentment and obligation. Second, weigh the pros and cons. Honor what the rule has bought you, but be honest about what it has cost you. Third, and most importantly, consult your values. Instead of asking, did I follow the rule? Ask, did this action move me closer to the person I want to be? This might mean your behavior looks exactly the same on the surface, but the motivation is entirely different. You might still work hard, but you're doing it because you value excellence, not because you're afraid of being seen as lazy. For Francesca, this shift had a dramatic effect. At the pumpkin patch birthday party, the wind blew her perfect decorations away. Instead of collapsing in a spiral of failure, she adapted. She assigned the kids to find rocks to weigh down the tablecloth and chase the flying napkins. They loved it. And instead of policing the cake table, she went on the hayride with her sons, who cheered, "Yay!" She let go of the rule book and, in doing so, found the very connection and joy her values pointed toward. This shift is about trading the chains of obligation for the compass of meaning. It's about learning to be guided not by what you should do, but by who you want to be. Our fourth and final deep dive is a shift that will resonate with anyone who has ever stared at a blank screen, a clean canvas, or a pile of laundry and thought, "I'll do it tomorrow." This is the shift from procrastination to productivity, and the book's central argument here is revolutionary. Procrastination is not about poor time management, it is about poor emotion management. To prove this, Hendriksen shares a fascinating and clever study from Case Western Reserve University. Imagine you're a participant. First, you're made to feel terrible by reading a story about causing a car accident that kills a child. Then, a researcher lights a scented candle and tells you it has the power to freeze your mood. However you feel right now is how you'll feel for the rest of the experiment. Finally, you're told you have 15 minutes to practice for a challenging math quiz. But you can also pass the time with some available distractions, like video games and magazines. Who procrastinated the most? It was the students who were made to feel bad, but who believed their mood could change, and who had tempting distractions. They weren't just avoiding the unpleasant math quiz. They were actively trying to repair their bad mood. Procrastination is a coping mechanism. It's a way to avoid the aversive feelings a task brings up: anxiety, boredom, self-doubt, and replace them with the immediate reward of a distraction. For perfectionists, this is a vicious cycle. Our unrealistic standards make tasks feel overwhelming, which triggers negative emotions. Our fear of failure, of not getting a perfect outcome, or even of not feeling perfectly confident during the process, adds another layer of dread. Then, when we inevitably procrastinate, we heap on another serving of shame and self-criticism for being lazy or undisciplined. This is the world of Antonio, the first-generation college student from the book. He feels immense pressure to succeed and honor his parents' sacrifices. When faced with writing a paper, his unrealistic standards kick in. He expects to sit down and have a perfect essay flow out of him effortlessly. The anxiety this produces is unbearable, so he escapes into TikTok. Then he feels guilty for procrastinating, which just makes him feel worse, reinforcing the cycle. So how do we break it? The book offers a multi-pronged approach that has nothing to do with fancy planners or productivity apps. First, forgive yourself. Research shows that students who forgive themselves for procrastinating on one exam actually procrastinate less on the next one. Self-forgiveness breaks the shame cycle. It's a form of mood repair that is far more effective than another hour of scrolling. Antonio found this hard. It felt like letting himself off the hook. So he started with a simple "oh well." It wasn't full self-compassion, but it was less self-criticism, and it was enough to lessen the pressure. Second, break tasks down into ridiculously small steps. The book tells the story of a therapy client trying to get to the gym whose very first step was peel a banana. That's it. If a step feels daunting, make it smaller until there is no resistance. For Antonio, this meant shifting from write paper to open laptop, then open Word document, then write one bad sentence. The momentum of these tiny successes is powerful. It builds mastery and slowly deflates the negative emotion. Finally, connect with your future self. Procrastinators often see their future self as a motivated, energetic stranger who will gladly handle the tasks we avoid today. But neuroscience shows we perceive this future self with the same neural distance as an actual stranger. The solution is to make that future self more real. But Hendriksen describes an intervention where students vividly imagine their end of semester self. Are their textbooks well used or pristine? Is their final paper almost done or barely started? How does that future self feel? This act of empathetic imagination closes the gap. We start to see our future self not as a magical problem solver, but as us, and we're more likely to do something today to make their life a little easier. Procrastination, then, is it a character flaw? It's a deeply human, if misguided, attempt to feel better. And by understanding its true roots, we can finally offer ourselves more effective ways to manage our emotions and get on with our lives. So, after this journey through self-criticism, performance traps, inner rule books, and procrastination, you might be asking, what makes How to Be Enough different from the countless other self-help books out there? The answer lies in its unique essence. This is not a book that tells you to simply try harder, to hustle more, or to crush your goals. In fact, it suggests that those very impulses might be part of the problem. Its radical departure is that it is a book about permission. It's permission to be human, to be messy, to be inconsistent, to fail, and to still be worthy of love and belonging. Hendriksen doesn't ask you to discard the conscientious, high-achieving parts of yourself. She honors them. She sees them as your superpower, but she gently and persuasively shows you how to wield that power with wisdom and flexibility so that it works for you, not against you. This book is for the overachievers who look successful but feel empty. It's for the people pleasers who have forgotten what it is they actually want. It is for the artists, the students, the parents, the professionals who are their own worst critics. It is for anyone who has ever felt like they are on the outside looking in, wondering what they have to do to finally earn their place. And who is this book not for? It is not for the person looking for a quick fix, a simple life hack, or a 7-step program to cure their personality. This book respects the reader's intelligence and complexity. It understands that this is deep, nuanced work that requires patience and self-compassion. The single most valuable takeaway a reader will be left with is a profound and liberating truth: your worth is not, and has never been, conditional. It does not need to be earned through performance, perfection, or the approval of others. It is inherent. Learning to live from that place of enoughness is the ultimate reward, the key that unlocks a life of genuine connection, purpose, and joy. We began with a tale of two titans, Walt Disney and Fred Rogers, two men who represent the two paths of perfectionism. One path leads to a monument of achievement, admired from afar, but a place of profound loneliness. The other path leads to a neighborhood, a community built on the radical idea that you are liked just the way you are. Throughout this summary, we have walked through the key shifts that Dr. Ellen Hendriksen offers as a guide to choosing the second path. We've learned to trade the inner critic for an inner coach, to move our eggs from the single basket of performance into the baskets of connection and enjoyment, to exchange our rigid inner rulebook for the compass of our values, and to understand that our procrastination is not a moral failing, but a cry for emotional kindness. This summary is just the map. Reading the book is the journey itself. To truly feel these shifts in your bones, to learn the dozens of other techniques and stories we couldn't cover, to give yourself the gift of Dr. Hendriksen's wise and gentle guidance, you have to experience the book firsthand. You have worked so hard for so long. It is time to welcome yourself home. The link to purchase How to Be Enough is in the description below. This is not just buying a book. It is an investment in a more compassionate and connected life. It is an act of kindness to your present and future self. Thank you for joining us, and as always, if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.